Hey, New Hope family, it's Pastor Matt with your devotional thought for today. In Genesis chapter 1, we see Moses write the following words. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. As I mentioned, this is out of Genesis chapter 1, and as you're likely aware, Genesis 1 is the beginning of Scripture, but it records the beginning of everything. It starts with, in the beginning, God. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But in the beginning, there was God. Before there was ever time, before anything else, God eternally existed. The triune God whom we love and serve and who created all things, he has eternally existed. And yet, in the beginning, whenever he chose, at some point, he created, thus starting time. And in that creative process, we see now that the pinnacle of God's creation, which is mankind. Now, before you think I'm being some arrogant jerk, I want you to think about this creative process with me for a second. Because I'm amazed when I look into a clear night sky and I see stars and I try to count them like God told Abraham he could try to do if he could count them. That's how many his descendants will be. Try to count the stars or look at these constellations, or you can even see the Milky Way galaxy on a clear night in which we are a part of, right? Of which our earth dwells. But beyond that, then think about on the earth itself, looking at a beautiful sunrise or sunset, how glorious these things are and just unbelievable beauty that our God has provided for our eyes to see. How about the majesty of mountains and rivers and canals and all these different things that we can see that our God has created. Even these creatures on the earth, man is created in God's image and in his likeness. And part of what makes us like God in that way, created in God's likeness, is the responsibility that our God has given us to have dominion over all the earth. Over all the earth, over all the creatures that it talks about. I mean, it talks about the fish of the sea, the birds of the heavens. It talks about all the livestock. It talks about all the creepy things that creep on the ground. Man is created to show dominion over all those things. And that is one way, a very important way in which the image of God is evident in our lives. But beyond that, we see in verse 27, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. So we have been created in God's image. It's a real gift that we have that, but it's also a great responsibility that our God has entrusted to us to care for this earth and also to not confuse man and woman. We live in a time where we want to say as a society, hey, man and woman as God has created, no, that's not clear enough. We want to create these other distinctions, these other categories, and we want to have autonomy in all these ways which we frankly don't have. God has created us in his image, and he has determined that we should be male and female. We should be man and woman. He's done this, and at the conclusion of creating man and woman, the end of day 6, it's the first time that God says he looked upon all of creation, and it was very good. He called it very good. Before that, after he'd created each day, he'd say, it is good, it is good. Now we see that emphasis on it is very good. And we know on the 7th day, God rested. So we see that as God was building the heavens and the earth and all these other things that would be in between them, it's on day 6 when he ultimately created man in his image, mankind in his own image, that he called it very good. So may we seek then, as God's image bearers, to rule over this earth as good stewards, as faithful stewards in light of his goodness to us.